Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming on. We'll start with our status real quick. We're ending sprint 16 today, and that's development sprint 16. Sprint 17 will begin, of course, tomorrow. So we're going through planning today and our retrospective and looking at what's been built and making sure assignments get made for the next sprint. We're working on customer intake, some shell of the customer profile, service collections. We put together all the ETPL screening pages, the routing, the warning messages or error messages and all that. So that will be coming out in a couple weeks, probably into UAT. Working on data migration, and we've got data we're staging over. We're going to do a pilot this weekend to pull some of that data over directly as it sits, not transforming or anything, but just pulling it over. And if that prototype or whatever works well, then probably the following weekend we'll be moving more data, and then we'll get some of this entity data and some of these data elements into our staging and our UAT, so that hopefully in the near future you'll be able to start seeing some more real data. We're doing discovery and customer intake, the applications, universal career plan, assessments, case notes, a lot going on. Measured skills gains, I think that's going to be looked at today. Expand iPads, negotiated goals, and then entity management training program. Laura and her team are going through that discovery process first and getting that all shelled out so that we can get that in requirements and get that next piece into the ETPL piece and the training program development piece into the application. So also some federal reporting will be continuing throughout. So any question on what's going on right now from a discovery or development standpoint before we get into discussions today on where we're at? All right. Olivia, I think you got.
Sorry, I have a question. It's Christy.
Yeah, go ahead.
Not so much a question about what's going on, but this week I was having issues opening the document, and so you guys helped me, so thank you. But I just had a question about the documents, the cycle guide or whatever it's called.
Yes.
So we only have access to those for 1 week at a time. Is that how it works, or?
Oh, we should have access the whole time. We put them in that one folder. Maybe you don't have
Okay, because I
access
guess
to
maybe it's just me then. I'm having an issue with
getting to the
well, I was
folder.
having an issue with being able to access the folder. So I did send an email, but I could only access the cycle 3 document.
Oh, okay. We'll work on that. Make sure that gets set. Should have that shortly.
Okay.
I didn't know
I
that.
just,
Sorry.
because
No,
I'm
you
like,
should
maybe
have,
it's just me. I don't know, but
you should have, this is where you should be able to get to.
yeah, well, I'm not able to get to those.
So if you go to this right
The
here,
same thing with me too.
this right here, you should be able to see
Yeah, I definitely can't see that at all.
and there's even a UAT link for the notebook in here.
Yeah,
So
no, mine is just a link to each individual cycle. So I wasn't sure. I might have missed something, is what I guess that's what I'm trying. I might have missed something that you asked us to do because I could only access one release at a time, is what I'm
okay.
so.
All right. So this is the entire guide. This one, then it's broken up into 1, 2, and 3. And there's also a document that has the schedule in it. So we'll make sure that you get to this folder here.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for
Me
telling us
too.
that. Everybody,
I'm
yeah.
I'm having problem with it as well.
Okay. We'll make sure of that. Thanks for bringing that up. And we'll talk about UAT today too. So Olivia, I think you got some review to do.
I sure do. Let me get my screen shared. So today I am going to walk through some of the MSG user interface, the UI that we've put together. We worked really closely with Mark and Paula to do this work. And we want to get in front of you and get your thoughts and feedback. I do want to state this is just the UI. We're going to have another discovery session with them where we go into like the business logic and validation that kicks these off and that lets different people come in to these different types of measures based on their program enrollment or their services. We bumped this up against the new Teagle 1016 change 3. So if you're not familiar with that, some of this might be like, oh, that's new. I didn't know that, because not all of it has been put into IWDS yet. I don't know that it will with that being sunset. And then we will do another round of discovery after we dig into the business logic that really defines how users will engage with these screens. Then we'll do another one where we then hook everything up to the Pearl. So there's, besides just the MSG rows, there are some other rows in the Pearl that are triggering for reporting purposes that we need to make sure get hooked up as well. So MSGs will happen in 3 cycles. I don't know that we'll put every single one in front of you like the Pearl one, but we will be bringing this back around. I also want to add, we're currently figuring out some navigation stuff as part of some universal career plan discovery work that's happening. Right now, the navigation and the look and feel of how the various pages will be hasn't been established. So we're just going to be looking at MSGs as its own like module, knowing that once we have the outcome section kind of further defined, we will be adding it to a page. Right now, we're really just looking at the MSG module, not necessarily where it'll live or how you'll get to it. This page that I'm on right here is will be like the starting point of where you get to the MSGs. It has its little header, and then we're going to have some informational text. This informational text will be dependent upon the program enrollment and the various services a customer has. So we want it to be intuitive. Once a customer triggers participation in the MSG, we want this section to open for them to engage with, and we're going to provide some informational text that lets the career planner know, hey, this customer has now triggered this MSG measure, and this is what needs to happen. We know for in-school youth, they are always in the MSG measure. So that text will be different if they're enrolled in in-school youth versus if they trigger a different way. That we're going to get into a little bit more in the business logic. We just kind of have it defined here so that our developers know when it's time to put this together, that text will kind of need to be intuitive, not a static text on a page, but it's going to be dependent upon application and service information. Under the info text, we have some filters. These filters right here will allow you to filter the table of MSGs. This table shows the MSGs a customer has. So if they don't have any MSGs, this table would be blank. As they start earning more and more MSGs, they will show in this table, and then you can filter the table on the types and the program year of MSGs. They also have sortable headers that you can sort on as well. And then you have the ability to add MSGs and then some pagination at the bottom of the MSG table. Do you guys have any questions on that before we start looking at, okay, well, how do I get an MSG into the system? Right. And I did see I had a few people join, so I just want to note, right now we're looking at the UI for MSGs. We're going to have further discovery that looks into the business logic and validation of how MSGs will work, and another discovery on connecting the MSG to all the Pearl information and reporting. So right now we're really just focused on the UI, which may change just a smidge when we get into the business logic portion of things. So when I click this Add MSG button, it's going to open up a modal that allows me to select the type of MSG I want to add. So there's radio buttons here, and I would click the radio button for the MSG I want. If I click Educational Functional Level, the page below is going to update to let me know that there are 3 ways that an EFL can be earned, and then define those 3 ways. So the first is test scores. There's really not a lot here, because what this is going to tell the end user is that the system is auto adding these MSGs based on pre and post assessment tests that are added for the customer. So when a customer adds a post assessment, into the system with the whole EFL gain, it's going to add that assessment, and then it's going to give them a pop-up modal that says, hey, this also qualifies as an MSG. It's a whole EFL higher than a previous, pre-assessment of the same type. And then it will automatically come in and add that EFL. This would be auto added by the system. And so if they're like, oh, well, I forgot to add the post assessment, they should have one, and there's tables empty. I can click this link right here and go directly to the assessment page and get that added. And then they're going to have their assessment added and the MSG added all in one step through the assessment page. We also have the EFL gain by entry into post-secondary education. This one is orange because we have some follow-up questions with Do It and internal conversations that we still need to flush out a little bit to make sure we're doing this appropriately. But with this one, the same is true. We believe the business logic can be put together so that when a specific step happens, like adding a training information to outcomes, and they have whatever necessary information, whether it be services or something like that, added to the system can automatically know, hey, this triggers an MSG, and auto add that MSG to the system. Once we have this one flushed out, we'll get that back in front of you guys too. But right now we're still working through a little bit on that one. And then the third EFL is a new one, is passing a subtest on a high school equivalency exam. This one is one that has to be manually entered by answering a couple of questions. During our business logic discovery, we're going to see, are there ways that we can, instead of asking these questions, check the system and then pull that information in to say, we know they're doing this because they have this service. So like, for example, this one we might be able to answer based on a specific service. It's going to be the same case when we look at some of the other ones where there's questions. But these are just checks in place to make sure that the career planner is adding the appropriate case note. Or not case note, I'm sorry, MSG. So it's going to ask, are they pursuing their high school equivalency? Have they successfully passed a subtest on a state recognized high school equivalency exam? And then they can upload that subtest. Again, I'm going to note here, there is currently conversation happening in GCEO regarding the policy that will be in place around uploading documents. If they determine that they do not want some kind of information or a massive amount of information uploaded into the system, we might get rid of this upload and have text here that says, make sure to keep a paper copy of the MSG in the customer's file. Here's the acceptable types of documentation in an info bubble. And then they have the date attained, add any comments, and then verification that they have verified that the customer has met all the requirements for this type of MSG. And the business logic behind these is, if I said, yes, they're pursuing their high school, but no, they haven't successfully passed an exam, and I try to save that, it's going to say, hey, in order to get this MSG, you have to successfully pass an exam. Please re-review your data and look at the policy. So there will be a little logic in here that if they don't answer things correctly to meet the policy definitions of how you go about earning this MSG, it'll give them a little message to have them double check. If everything looks good, they'll click save, and that MSG will then populate on the table. Any questions on the EFLs? All right. Next is the attained secondary school diploma or recognized equivalency. So this one is not currently in IWDS. This one might be one that some people are adding under skills progression. However, it does not need to even be added at all into the system in 2.0. We can simply look at the credentials and, based off of the data entered in the credentials section, know if you have earned this. So we wanted to pull this out as an MSG type because it is an MSG type listed in TEGL 1016 change 3, and let users know that in order to get this MSG, you just need to add that diploma or recognized equivalent to the credential page, and the system will automatically count that as an MSG. It'll be counted in the Pearl under 1800. It's not a Pearl row, but they actually look at a different row, and if you have a specific number recorded, then it also is counted as an MSG. So this will just minimize duplicate entry of MSGs, unnecessary entry of MSGs into the system because we're already counting them. And then we have post-secondary transcript and report. This one works with the question, so it's not one we're automatically adding in the system. Again, we might be able to look at some stuff in the system to double check that's in there in order to be successfully counted as an MSG. The necessary steps are happening for this to qualify. We'll look at that in the next discovery. But they answer a question and then it asks them to upload. We're pulling a lot of the guidance information from the Tegels and from the policy and trying to put it here on the page. So our career planners understand what they need to do, what are the requirements, and how am I making sure that I am successfully meeting the needs of this MSG. So it's going to give them some information here on what kind of documentation we're looking for. We'll have a little info bubble that says, maybe what to make sure not to have. And then Mark and Paula are exploring potentially even including some links to policy that highlight here are some approved documentation types that are accepted for this type of MSG, just to have all that information linked right here and streamline the process of making sure folks understand how to successfully get these qualified MSGs into the system so that during monitoring things don't come up like, oh, that documentation doesn't work. Maybe, they are not aware, they don't know where it is in the policy to find it. But if we can link it here, it can help minimize that kind of stuff from happening. And then the last three fields are just the same as the other: data attained, comments, and verification. The data attained is gonna be what determines which PY the MSG you earned falls in. So once you click save, it'll run and make sure that you verified and answered yes. And if you do, you'll move forward. If you answered no, it'll give you some text that says, hey, let's take another look. And then again, it would add here, the data attained is how we determine which PY that MSG falls in.
Olivia, there is one question in the chat.
Yeah. Let me open that up. I didn't have that open. Paul asks, will we need to mark educational function level if the system is going to automatically recognize it? No. So if your career planners know, which they will after they've done this a couple times, oh, in order to get my EFL, I just need to add my pre and post assessment, or I just need to add my training outcome, outcome for in the outcomes page for my user. They don't need to come here and re-add it. When they're doing those steps in the system will say, hey, we successfully added this, and then give them another message that says, hey, this also qualified as an MSG, so we went ahead and added it. So those type of EFLs and this attained secondary school diploma recognized equivalency system would auto add these records in there based on other actions you guys are doing in the system. And then we are also going to explore, so for Chrissy's question, there are other credentials that qualify as MSGs. I believe that's under skills progression. Or it's one of these. What we were wanting to do is build out the credential section to include like a trigger to say, like, does this credential qualify as an MSG? We'll look at the business logic to see if there's ways we can figure it out to like help determine that. But at a minimum, we can have a flag on the credential to when you're adding it, have it be like, this is also an MSG. And that would do the same thing where we can auto add that credential, or I'm sorry, auto add the earning of that credential as an MSG all in one step. So we're really looking to like minimize duplicate entry and make sure we're fully capturing all the MSGs that are already in the system without needing to like go back in and add the MSG. Does that answer your questions, Paul and Christy?
Yeah, I think so. But did you say that if you entered that secondary diploma that it would auto-populate the MSG? I thought I heard you say something. Maybe I did.
Yeah, if you receive a secondary school diploma or recognized equivalent and you add that as a credential, when you select the type, you're selecting one, which is diploma or recognized equivalent. It you select that as a type that maps to ID1 in the Pearl, and then DOL looks at this row, and anybody who has one in the Pearl, that's also counted as an MSG.
Thank you.
Yeah. Will this section notify when you have to enter a new MSG once a year? I have a pop-up there. Once you have passed the 1 year period. So are you saying like I am still enrolled and I've moved from like PY23 into PY24 and now I'm on the hook for another MSG because I've moved in? Yeah, we're gonna add like an actions section here. And that can be one of the actions that we flag, like maybe like entering an MSG is complete, and then you move into PY24, and now you need another one. So you have another action item that comes up that says like you need an MSG for PY 2024 because you're still on the hook, because you're still enrolled in training or you're an in-school youth or whatever the situation. But yes, Robert, we're going to have the system flagged to do that so folks don't think, oh, well, I already added one, not realizing that they're on the hook for this next PY. Any other questions? All right. So this next one is just post-secondary transcript and report card. Very similar thing here. There are some talks about looking if we can capture some of this in service to determine this instead of having to ask it here. So like I said, some of these questions and stuff might change based on further conversations as we move into deeper discovery on business logic. But the concept of these will be the same. We'll be looking to make sure they identify the necessary information and add that, and streamlining being able to auto add it where we can. And the next one is training milestone and progress report. We did tweak the titles of some of these. I can't remember off of my head which ones we all changed. I know that this last one we changed. We might have changed this one too. DOL had provided some recommendations around language and titles. So we're making sure to incorporate that in 2.0. So if some of these look a little different than you're used to, that's why. Same thing here, descriptive text on, what is this? How does a customer trigger this or fall into this category? And then asks for an upload, gives examples of what is okay for an upload. Then you date attain, comments, verify, and save. And then the last one is training progression and occupational exam passage. So similar here, we have info text, questions, upload, attain, comment, verification, and save. So pretty streamlined. Once you start doing it, you're really just picking the one you want. And if it's not one that auto-populates, answering one, maybe two questions, potentially uploading it. We're still exploring that. And then identifying when they got it, adding comments, and verifying that you have met the requirements for this MSG, and then getting it added to the system. Yeah, and Mark did make a good point. So the thing here we want to remember is that we enter all MSGs gained, not just the first one that might get a positive but really looking to see multiple MSGs in each PY when they are triggered for that metric. Do you guys have any questions? This is all I have for today. It's really just the UI of how this will look. We really wanted to try to provide more guidance around MSGs within the tool itself. So that's a big change that we're seeing from IWDS.
Yeah, and just one thing to add to that, Olivia, thanks for the overview. And this is kind of going a little bit outside of 2.0, but with my comment about the multiple MSGs, part of the reason for that also is that, sometimes we're not sure about an MSG and you email us and we're still not sure and we reach out to DOL. Well, if we're capturing 4 or 5 MSGs, I can't imagine they're all going to be questionable and potentially not countable. So it's really important to get them all in there to make sure we get at least one every program year. And then some of these gray areas, it's not really as important to understand immediately, especially. So just keep having your career planners put every one of those in when they are earned, not wait till the end of the year when they can potentially be forgotten along the way. And those reminders that Olivia speaks about that we already have built in iPads as well will help people remember, say, oh yeah, long time's already been passed. I better check and see if they've earned one or if I just didn't capture it in the system.
Yeah, Mark, thank you for that comment, because I think that's one of the problems. They don't enter that information when they receive it. They wait till the end and they don't realize the fact of different program year. But on a side note, with that comment part where you got the tape test and whatnot, I know tape is looking to move into the 13 and 14. I don't know this relevant to this part here, but if the tape industry decide to move from the 11 to 12 and we just have to start using the 13 and 14, how would that impact the MSG from a DCO standpoint? Will y'all move into using the 13 and 14 and send it out and have it added to this 2.0?
I would imagine we'll have to be consistent with that, Robert. I'm not probably prepared to respond now. For some reason I was thinking that already changed.
No,
But,
I was talking with them just the other day, and they were telling me because of some other issues I was having. So okay,
we'll talk to you. Yeah, because Paul is probably a little bit better off to answer that response, and then I can learn from that to be able to respond to your question in the future. But certainly anything that is available and allowable to be captured in any of these measures, we're going to make sure to request that the workNet staff get that included in the programming.
Yeah, we did that when it switched from like 9:10 to 11:12. We updated to include on the workNet side.
We'll always be consistent with that and always listen to all of you when you catch us being a little bit lax maybe in updating to make sure we go back and get it in the system as quickly as we can. Just what's going to be great about 2.0 is the responsiveness is going to be so much more I don't want to say immediate, but certainly, we know we have our challenges with IWDS now and getting some updates. So, we're going away from that. Don't want to harp on that too much longer, but that should not be an issue. Hopefully moving forward, once we change over and when we see and hear of those kind of changes, we'll be able to get them in a lot quicker and in my mind, a clearer manner too.
Good. Also, with this new system, with this part here and stuff, how would that interact? Maybe this going to be probably for another meeting. I just want to, but my concern is also with the performance part of the MSG, how that would tie into the performance measure, and how can we know from the numerator, the denominator, would it pick those things and say, hey, because I think the part of it is sometimes they get past that 1 year period and sometimes the student may have left and they try to get some information for retesting or do whatever they may need to get done. But maybe the performance probably going to be done in another section, you think? And we could talk more about it.
Yeah, so we're going to look at the Pearl part, which is really tying a lot of the DOL reporting. And then we also have milestones that looks at we have a whole performance milestone that will look at that. a lot of what we're going to be doing, and Mark can build off of this if he wants to add some more, is iPads has a lot of this, and we're going to be adding a performance impact section onto each customer so that you can see it from just that customer, or you can use iPads to see from your whole office who's missing and what customers are included as well. But we will have a whole section around performance as it relates to all the performance metrics, including MSG, in future discovery cycles.
Awesome, Oliver.
And Paul does have his hand up.
Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
Yes, so I just had a quick question. So for the MSGs, work experience, and so if a youth specifically is in a training service of some kind or educational service, they're on the hook, right? So when they enter a WEX or an OJT, the MSGs that they can get from those would count. But the problem is right now in IWDS, it doesn't let us enter it per se, because I think it's supposed to be entered under the training milestones and progress reports, because that's where like the apprenticeships and the OJTs and work experience and those things would fall under. But because right now in IWDS it's coded as a training service related measurable skills gain, it will not let a youth WEX or OJT skills gain be entered under that MSG. So is there a way in this system to somehow allow that?
Yeah, we're going to be completely redoing the business logic to remove any barriers that are preventing you from adding MSGs when you should be able to add them, and making sure they're getting added to the appropriate type, because it's been pointed out that there's a couple where they're not. So that will definitely be something that will not be an issue in the new system. If they're getting a training milestone MSG, the youth will be able to add that as a training milestone MSG. We won't block you from doing that.
Thank you.
I think I appreciate that, Olivia. I think that's going to be a consistent message, especially as we keep dealing with performance, because we know there's some areas of current IWDS that are challenges. Certainly don't want to say that 100% of what we identify needs to be included will get in there. I hope so, but there's always challenges with any system. But hopefully, Paul and all the others, hopefully this is going to reduce the amount of times you need to identify those issues with us, because we're going to try to capture them through these kind of conversations, get them in the new system from the beginning. And we'll overlook things and we'll learn new things that we have to go back and request, but hopefully this is going to solve a lot of those problems right off the bat.
Any other questions before I pass it over to Al to talk through some UAT feedback?
Yeah,
All
just an
right.
operational question. Can whoever's having the sidebar conversation, please mute your phone?
I think it's background coming from people who come off mute to talk, just like colleagues in the back.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Al. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Hopefully this won't be too difficult of a discussion, but I was digging through the UAT response. Thank you very much for those responses. And we might need to make some tweaks, but I'm curious about a couple things here. So I want to talk about relationships today. That's where we were in our UAT, where we stood up the ability to add and edit relationships on locations. And I want to go to this first, let me go to this. This is back on the hours of location details hours. I'm looking into that. I just wanted to tell Crystal there. The ability to, I think that you wanted the ability to maybe duplicate those hours across. So just for other people that want to see that and what's going on there, if you haven't had a chance. If you go into a location, you'll notice, so here's a location. Oops, I'm sorry. Did I go to the right spot? Locations. Here's the locations, these hours right here. If I go and edit those, let's say we open at 9 o'clock and we close at 4 every day. I think this is where you were going with this, just to make sure. Then I would have to change this and they're by 15 minutes. So as you can see, I had to change that. And then I'd have to do that for every one of these. Is there a way to say, hey, we have the same hours across? Something like we did here with being able to do it that way. So anyway, I'm looking into that. We'll see if there's a better way to do that for hours of operations for location. And that was a good catch. Okay. A couple things are going to happen here. First of all, it's Chris said, appreciate the free form relationship field ID. Yeah, we talked about changing that from a free form to a generated one. We really couldn't come up with an agreed upon format, but the state leadership still wanted that. So what we're doing here is we're adding in relationships, we're making this particular one, we're keeping it as a free form and making it a local relationship ID. And then we're generating, you'll see on this grid really only, we're generating a statewide standard on a relationship ID, and it'll be sitting here. You don't have to do anything with it. You can use it how you want, but basically we're going to give you both is what we're going to end up doing there. So you'll see that coming out pretty quick. The next thing here was, this is a way to choose more than one relationship type. Okay, this right here, a couple people I think brought this up. So in here, I think you're talking right here. These don't seem to be mutually exclusive to you all. Is that what that meant? Like we could have a relationship that was a referral and then also other vendor, or is that where that's just coming from?
Yeah, because like you could have an ITA vendor who also does customized training and so forth,
Yep.
but you have to choose just one.
Right. And so then I was like, where are we using this? Where are we actually, is this in some reporting? Like I couldn't really get any good answer out of how important this actually was. Where are we using this? Do we use this on, like if it's ITA vendor, do we use this on like a select all the ITA vendors? So for some reason, or
Well, so I'm thinking, I mean, I'll let the locals answer from an LWIA perspective, but we were just having a conversation yesterday about when we've got like the JTED program and the grantee is also the training provider, we would want them to be able to select multiple relationships.
okay.
So I mean, there might be similar situations in the local areas.
Yeah, I was just about to say, yeah, for LWIA 7, like we have, for
Right.
example, we have Moraine Valley. They're a training provider, but they're also they do WIOA services, so they have two separate things that they're doing.
Yep, okay.
So we would need them to be, yeah, the ITA provider and the, I guess, subrecipient.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. I might just make myself a note.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons I use Marine Valley as my entity that I entered, so I could see the difference between, choose both, but it wouldn't allow me to choose both.
Okay, no problem. I think that should be not a problem. Okay, this is the one that threw me a little bit. Okay, and this really has to do with a lot more than just the front end. It has to do with how the back end's wired up. So it says your relationships numbers are attached to the main location, and this is saying in IWDS currently. Okay. And I'm struggling to figure out how that truly is. Okay. So if I go in here, this is test, so we may have to go into production to get real data, but let me just be in here first. And I'm going to, at one time, obviously there was data pulled over here, probably. So I'm going to go here. Okay, so this is an entity here, and I'm going to list the locations. And it's very similar in production, but you have Taylorville, Beardstown. The first thing I want to know, this is like, let's pull ourselves up from relationships really quick, because I'm not understanding something here that's going on in this data. And that is, why do we see this? This is probably not going to show me that, but in production, we have the same location name and the same location address twice under the same entity. Can somebody explain that? I probably have to go to production because we don't have it here, but we do have it in production. In production, we have Shepherd Road. I believe that's the one. Actually, it's the medical one. Okay. Let me go over here.
But Al, I do agree on what you're saying, where they have like Lincoln Lake and you had like 20 addresses of the same place.
Right.
No, it seemed like people keep on adding them instead of going to that source.
Right.
What I had to do for my local area, when I do see it, I would contact Mark and say, hey, Mark, merge them for me.
Oh, okay.
And he will merge them and get it. So every time I see it, I don't know why people did that. It was probably before me and I noticed it. And depending on some local areas, they keep on adding it. And you can open up certain lines and do it properly. But I normally tell Mark or Chris, and they will merge it, and then it would just show it as one. It would be great in the new system where it can, you could piggyback the location, because I can understand if they have more than one different location, like that have a different location, 800 LLC, Lincoln Land. But when you start seeing the same address, I have a merge them.
Okay. So it's not desired. It's just that the system allowed you to do that underneath in an entity, and somebody just went ahead and did it. Okay. So
correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure why that was first, because
to me, the system should stop it and say, hey, you got this address already. Just like how you got clients. If you try to put in a client and snag you on the Social Security and say, hold on, this person been in. To me, it should have that same kind of feature. Hold up, this address is already in.
Okay, I get you. Okay, I just want to make sure that wasn't desired.
Yeah. Is there going to be you're going to have to search, right?
Right. You do have to search first, and then right now, the system in UAT does not even allow you to put the same exact address under this twice under the same entity. Okay, this doesn't let you do it.
Good.
Okay, if the name is exactly the same. Okay, so it's possible that you'll need to put in the address twice if you have, like, in a sense, two different offices or whatever, right? Like, it's like, but then it's not, and I don't know, I'm hoping this is right, because then it says, well, then you'll see this in places like you'll have a disaster. I think in Macon County, Arkansas or something, you'll have like a disaster recovery office or something, and it has the exact same address as the main office, right? So it's like there's two purposes for that address, so to speak. It's too bad they're not using the second line of that address, like to say a suite or something else or an office, but they're not, because I guess the legal address or the postal address is exactly the same, but they're having two reasons for that location, so to speak. So they got really two locations. That doesn't seem quite as bad, but today IWDS 2.0, the way it's built is it does not let you put the same location address under the same entity twice with the exact same location name. Just doesn't let you do it. Now, if you're saying we have to do that, well, then we need to think about that. But today it doesn't let you do that. Okay. All right. Now let me go back to this relationship thing, this question here. I don't quite understand how, unless as you're saying this is our standard. Like, I don't know what this means when you say you're putting a relationship under the main location, and it basically, you don't have to reuse it across, like it's reusable across all locations, which doesn't seem right to me. Okay, so now when I go in, like if we look at this is actually a good example. If we look at this, now understand that my ID allows me to see all the LWIAs for these relationships, and there's each LWIA defines their own relationship for a specific location. We had a big discussion about that yesterday. I don't know that there's any better way to do that, but so if you'll notice here, I'm at this location, and you don't see this, like whoever was right now, it's a little confusing because we do not have this like partitioned off by LWIA yet, right? So that probably made it a little bit more confusing, because it really wasn't, you don't see this LWIA out here, right? So you think, well, I'm sorry. You think you would believe I don't need to see these LWIAs because these are just for how I'm logged in. But right now, you know that we don't have a login, and we don't have any of you set up to be a specific LWIA. We'll make sure, I mean, that's coming, and we'll have that soon. So you're just seeing only one relation, these are the relationships for that location, and it doesn't show up by LWIA. All right. So that's probably confusing to you. I get that. Okay. However,
But hey, Al, though, providers are going to be able to go in and enter this information on themselves, and the LWIAs can just go in and select that provider, right? They don't have to enter the provider information themselves through the LWIA.
you won't, like, okay. Yes and no. I don't know. I think it's both. I think that, I don't know that we we haven't talked about your provider setting up relationships. I don't think we were doing that, but doesn't mean you couldn't, but
yeah, well, we can have an offline conversation about it because we have to, because of the other programs that we have.
okay, we'll talk about that. Yeah. Okay. All right. So if you notice this, so if I go here, this is kind of hard to see, but if I go here, you'll see that in production we have this relationship 4 set this relationship up. 5250, and I can see it because I'm on 0. So I can see that 4 would only see this particular relationship for this location, right? But if you said, well, they apply to all locations, you'll notice that if I go to this Beardstown location and I show relationships, I only see one. I'm a little confused, and it's youth. I'm a little confused with this statement.
Oh,
Would you like me to explain?
Yes, please. Thanks.
Okay. I don't care about what other LWAs are doing. This is something that I'm talking about just us.
Oh,
Go
okay.
So for example, you go into, and I think this would apply to everybody, you have a main training provider who is a community college. They have branch campuses. The way that it's set up right now, the branch campuses do the exact same thing as the main campus. It's just in a different location. The way that it's set up in IWDS 2.0 currently, you can't just duplicate that and have them all under the same relationship number, because it's requiring you to put in a different relationship number for a different location. I don't want to enter that same stuff over and over and over again.
Right.
It's duplicative.
But what if it's not? What if the same training program and the same service are not provided by all the locations?
So then I just wouldn't use them under that location. But the point is, I don't want to have to duplicate information when most of the time the same stuff is offered at multiple locations.
So would we want to be able to just pick the locations when you set up a relationship? Just check the locations.
I mean, because the whole issue is that you set up a relationship so that you can provide training. If I don't choose to use it, no big deal. But if it's not there, that's a problem.
Can you give me an entity to look at?
Yeah, like choose Carl Sandburg College.
I think it's like that in the current IWDS too, isn't it, Crystal, where you have to set up relationships. You can't set up a relationship with the entity as a whole. You have to
No, you can do it because we have a relationship ID under Carl Sandburg College, and that you can choose multiple locations.
Oh, okay. Because like for city colleges of Chicago, for example, if we can't do the entity if we have someone that's doing a program that's at I mean, we're DuPage, but if we have somebody that wants to go next door into Cook County and that, that may have lived there, that if they want to do something at Daly College or Malcolm X College, like the entity is City Colleges of Chicago, but we have to set up a relationship with like each location where the student's going. Now that could be because certain training programs are only offered at certain locations, but
right.
I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying, yeah, it would be nice to have the option to do both, because then that way you're not creating like multiple. And then if you wanted to run a report about like, participants at a certain provider, even our community college of DuPage, it's like, well, do you have to do the report? Will it capture, do you have to do it by like, location, or can you just say anybody that went to this school, regardless of which branch campus? So it would be nice to have that. I think I see what you're saying, and I thought, like, I was thinking we had to do it that currently in current IWDS. Sometimes we have to do that too. We have to make more than one. You have to make a relationship number with the different locations, even though some classes.
Yeah, you can, but you don't have to.
How come I can't find this? Oh, there it is. Okay, I spelled it wrong evidently.
Yeah.
I want to also shy on what y'all were just talking about with the location. Now, what I was told with the location, and based on where the student is going to, and how we paying that ITA, from the fiscal monitor team of DCO, they say that's wherever they go in training should show where the bill is being paid, unless the bill itself said in care of the main location. But if not, you're supposed to put the training location of the student. The same what I'm hearing here. Like if you look at DeBry got like 2 pages and about 30 different locations. If it's okay with DCO and you just want one location, but the bill is coming from XYZ location, would that be okay? Because somehow or another, I seen what you guys are saying, and sometimes I tend to set up mine a little bit different because I don't like having all of those programs under just one number, one program number, ID and stuff. So let me hear what y'all got to say about that. Maybe Mark could probably chime in on that, but I remember wherever that student was attending, that's where we had to show that in IWDS and also for the bill. You can't have somebody going to the Bright downtown, but they're actually going to the one in Gurney per se.
Choose view to the one that's the 2200601.
This one? Okay.
All right, so notice that there are some of those, obviously the stimulus stuff and everything ended a long time ago, so we don't care
Sure.
about that, but so it's all, and that's the active one. So if you go into their branch campus, it's linked, you notice the relationship number up there. If you go into their branch campus, it's the same number. That's their main location.
Right. So let's go back one. Hold on a minute. So um underneath all this, there's training and services and all those kinds of things that are offered through this funding.
Yeah.
You're saying that because you put it on one, every location that I send someone to,
Like if you look at the relationship number, it will show that location as well as their branch campus, because their branch campus is just an outlier and offers classes, but they don't have their own billing or anything. It goes to the main location.
okay, so you're using, okay. Let me see this one.
And you still track it, obviously, where they're taking their training at and everything. But in IWDS 2.0, you can't duplicate. Like
Yeah,
I
no.
wanted to put it under the branch campus. I have to go back through and choose all those services and everything again. I didn't have to do that before.
But you're okay. I'm not okay. So let's look at, so you see, let's go back one page. 14 has active here. This 06 inside of here, it has, I think 1A or 1D was still active, and it's under the 2400 address. Okay. Now, if I go, these are all inactive. If I go to the next page on 14s and I go to this active here.
Yeah, somebody else set that up. I don't use that one anymore.
Oh, okay.
We're only using one, and that's
Oh, okay. Okay. Because that's what was throwing me off a little bit. It's like, why do we have, okay, but what about, why do we have, well, these are inactive, all inactive though.
Yeah, I've tried to clean it up.
Yeah.
That's more to show you the way of not doing it. I mean,
get-
because you have all of those one for a local area, 14, so they combine it into just one to make it simple for them, maybe from a reporting process.
I mean, you have to take into
15.
account that IWDS is a historical system. There could be multiple people, staff people over different times. They couldn't find what they wanted. They just re-entered it, whatever.
Correct.
In the last 10 years, we've used just the single relationship number.
And it applies and it works over all your locations.
Yeah, so now I'll click in the one for the Carthage address. Carthage.
Oh, is that the one you wanted? I'm sorry.
Yeah, not that one.
This one here.
Yeah. See the relationship? Okay, yeah, you went off of it too fast.
Oh, I'm sorry. List locations. This is the one you want.
Yes, so just view it.
View that location.
Oh yeah, stop. Do you notice at the top, the relationship number is the same as the one that we were using before? 2 multiple 0 6 0 1. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't have to put anything special in for that location. I don't have to do anything. I can just, it's
Okay.
under the same relationship number, but in IWDS 2.0,
We haven't got that in
Yeah.
yet. Yep.
yeah, you can't do that. If I went into, because you're looking at the list of locations and you go in there and then you're choosing all the services and everything under that location, which means you have to establish a new relationship number and everything. So I'm duplicating information in order to put it in. And I
So
thought we were supposed to.
how do I get it not to do that? That's what I don't understand. You're saying it carries over all locations, but you just saw where I was at Lincoln Land and I showed Beardstown only had one location or one relationship, didn't have all those other ones. How did they get that to happen? Or how are you getting this to happen in IWDS? If you're saying it automatically carries over all locations, then how are you getting it not to happen?
Why would I want it not? I think we're not understanding the same thing. I'm just
Right.
asking.
I don't think I am. Right.
When I was in IWDS 2.0 and I was playing around with adding relationship numbers and all that stuff. When I went into Carl Sandburg College to do the same kind of thing, I
Yes.
clicked under the location for the main campus and I go through and I make my relationship ID number and I test it out, adding services and all that jazz. But then I realized when I go back to it, under the branch campus, I can't just duplicate it and put the same stuff. I have to make a whole new thing.
Right. Okay. That's no problem. We can get that to happen, but I just want to know, how are you doing it in IWDS? How are you duplicating it? How are you adding the other locations to that relationship? Or how are you not? I can't see that in IWDS. That's my problem. So if I go back in here,
I don't know, this is a super old one. So I'm not adding new stuff. You know what I mean? I mean,
yeah, but like
that might predate me. I don't know, but
where is
not tried it.
The third one down,
it's not, was it here?
the third
Oh, yeah.
one down.
I'm sorry. Thanks. Okay. Okay. So if I was going to create a location, right? I'm sorry, create a relationship, I would select one of my locations, right? Is that right so far?
Yes.
Right? I would select my location. Maybe I would go in, I could go straight in and add the other way too. And then I would list relationships and I say, okay, I'm going to add a location or add a relationship, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, let me go back though, because it should have something under it.
And I'm sorry, and I don't mean to continue the digression here, but this is interesting to me actually, because I'm learning something from this. So thank you, Crystal.
Okay, so
when he clicked on when he clicked on the Carthage location and view locations, and then he clicked on list relationships, that 2 multiple 061 that doesn't show up. So
Right.
how did you pull that off? So how did you get the Carthage location to come under that same relationship number?
It's very simple, but it seems like y'all missing it. But I'm just waiting y'all to keep on going. Then when you get to a point, maybe I will also point it out as well what you're missing.
okay.
Or do you have to go back to the entity and list relationships? I'm not sure.
This is the locations on the entity.
Okay, which one? Okay, you see the top three, basically, probably 4 or 5. All of them got some kind of Carl Sandburg College information. The thing you got to look at, which one of these locations do you want? Period. Pick one that you want. Okay, now you're going to list relationships. Now you're going to see all the relationships from all different local areas that chose that school at that address.
Yeah, but I'm going to concentrate on 14 right now.
Okay, now 14 took that same address. If you look, everybody got the same address to some degree, but the one just above it doesn't have the 9576. So that's an open one, which means this is considered a different address because of the last 4 number. But go to 14. If you hit view, she have all the program that she wants for that location in here when it starts and when it's end. You can always go back and edit the end date, because On my location, if it's past 5 years and school wasn't doing nothing, I make that school inactive. Because
Yeah,
keeping it active is not really a good thing.
well, no, I'm not worried about this. I'm not worried about the
Okay.
makeup of the relationship. Let's just say there's one
If you
thing.
look in the blue letters above the return button, the address listed is the Galesburg address, but I was just
Correct.
is how you got the same relationship number
Thank you.
for the Carthage address.
What you
Exactly.
mean? What you mean? Show me, because if
You
the
click
address is, if
locations-
there's two different addresses, you could have the same number.
Oh, okay. So IWDS doesn't catch it and say, hey, this is the same number.
No, it got to be exact same name,
Oh, okay.
address, everything right down to the last 4 digits of the zip code.
Right. But how did they get the same? How did they get this
The third
relationship?
one down, the Carthage, Illinois location. And sorry, I don't mean to misquote you here. I thought you said you were able to get that that location to have the same relationship number as the one with the that says Gale right there, that says Galesburg, that address. Like I thought that relationship number you were able to get assigned to more than one location address. That's where I was confused.
No,
but it's
that number is just for that location only.
oh, okay.
Okay, hold on then. Let's go back to this statement. Crystal,
Yeah.
how are you getting a relationship defined on one location, essentially also defined on all these other locations without adding it?
Well, okay, so I've been doing this for 10 years, but this provider existed well before I was doing the provider stuff. And I was just saying, when I went in and I double checked the relationship number for the Carthage location, it showed up as the same one. So I just wondered how come in IWDS 2.0, I can't just check a box or something that adds the same services for that other location. Because if
Are
you
you
click
talking
on-
about the titles?
Like if you click on that Carthage location, the third one down, and you view it, you'll notice that at the top, it says LWA 14 relationship 2006-01, which is under the parent location at Cross Amber College with that PIN number. Even
Yeah,
though
it is weird because if you
located
go to
in a
list,
different place.
you go in the menu and say list relationships. I don't think one
It's
came
not
up.
doing it the same way if we go this way. So if I go in this way.
Oh,
and I
yeah.
search-
Because you forget IWDS has some weird little quirks that sometimes you could put in on one side and then it's different on another. But I'm just
so
saying,
yeah, here's the entity, and I list the locations,
You could
and I
go to
look,
the
and I
Carthage
go here
one.
first. If I go here's first,
Yeah.
and I
And
go
then
to
list
relationships, I get nothing.
correct.
IWDS source
Nothing,
rate. It worked.
nothing was added for that location. So just because you see no relationship there, because nobody enter a location for that person to go to school at that location.
Right,
But
hold
it's-
on, hold
but
on.
it's
But if I go
under-
back to locations, I select
exactly.
this top one first. And where's the main one at?
That's the 2400 Tom L. Wilson. That's the
Yeah,
main
if I
one.
view this one first, if I
Yeah.
view relationships, you see all these relationships, including this one, right?
Mhm.
If I go
Mhm.
back to locations and I go to this one and I go to relationships, no, it's not doing it now.
Well, again, look at the third one down, location, and look at the first one. Do you see something? Do you see, or do they look the same?
No, I know they're different. Robert, I
Yeah.
know they're different, but she's saying that she's getting the relationship that she built on the main location up here, right?
Yeah.
Right,
If you look at relationships and you look at this 206-01 was built on the main address, right? The main
correct.
location. That works for all locations.
Right.
No, shouldn't work because the other location got different address. It should not work. So that's a bug. It's not going to work.
Okay.
You can't have a main location with an identification number to represent all of those next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down. No, it's not going to happen. Not the way they currently have it set up in IWDS. each location had to have its own unique number.
First of all, how did we get to that while ago? We got to that while ago where you had up here, we had
Right.
206. How did we get to that? I can't even get to that now.
Yes, you could. Let's go to the number 1 again. Carl Sandburg,
Yeah.
view.
Yeah.
There's a little bug
Oh,
there.
because I viewed it first. I know what it is. I know what it is.
Okay.
So if I view this, and
There you go.
then I go to locations.
Maybe it's a
Then I
carryover
go
versus-
to Carthage. Then I go
Right.
to
There you
relationship.
go.
Whoops, I'm sorry. Go back.
Go back.
You have the idea. You got
That's
it
because
right.
I viewed it.
Correct.
This isn't correct. This is not being linked up in the system. This is just a holdover from when this is not possible.
Well,
you
that
might, you,
you've
you
got
might have caught a bug there.
you had the main address. You didn't have the other one.
So if I go to the main, right? This is the main, and I list relationships. I see them all. Okay, well, actually, let me show you this. Let me just show you this. Okay, let me go all the way back to the entity and go down, and I'll show you how it happened. Okay, so if I go into search entity, and I grab Carl Sandburg, top down, and I go to locations, and I go straight to this one here, and I list relationships, I get nothing. Okay. And if I list location, if I go back to where I was, there's no relationship selected yet because I've never viewed one. Okay. But that particular location is not tied to that relationship. If I go up here, list locations, I go into the main one. I look at all the relationships that are tied, 14 and tied to that particular main one. If I look at this, just happen to look at this, and then I go back and I look over here, it looks like it's tied. It's not. All right. Okay. But you came on something though. I like your idea here, and I think that works. I think we could do that. But I think in this, when you build the relation, so it doesn't matter what location you build it on, kind of like when we select contacts for locations, same concept. When you build a relationship in here, I think you should be able to select which locations within that entity you want this to apply to.
That was my point.
Would that work?
I just don't want to duplicate stuff.
I agree. I totally agree with that.
Right. I agree.
That sounds great. And we can add to this. Basically, we'll add a locations page. Like when you're in edit, we'll add a location, like maybe here at the end, we'll add a locations page. Once you set this all up, we'll say, okay, here's the locations for this entity. Do you want, and you're on this one, do you want it to apply to any of the other ones?
As long as the fee number is corresponding with that college. And I think what you were looking at previous, all those different locations were based off the fee number. That's why you was able to see Carl Sandburg College.
Right, but the thing number is connected to the entity. So I'm saying within the entity, right? That's where I'm saying it, not any other entity. But within this entity, we'll list the locations. Would that work? And then you could just check the ones you want this relationship to apply to. Then whenever you go to any location, so if I went to the camp, if you selected both, if you were in here and you selected this one for both 241010, right? You would also see when you came to here, you'd also see 24001 because you checked it for both.
Correct.
Okay. That we can do that. We could definitely do that.
Yeah, that would be awesome. That would be,
and that'll make more sense for you.
Yes,
and that'll make
yes.
it. That'll make
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I find it hard to believe that there aren't other community colleges across the state that have branch campuses where they offer the exact same classes where you would be sending somebody under 1A regardless of their location. And I don't want to duplicate. I don't want to go through and have to choose all my training services and all my this and all my that for every single.
Yep.
Location.
We do have a hand up, Christy.
I just want to add, this was a really good conversation because I think that I'm going to just tell you how Career Connect is set up. It's different than IWDS, and I don't know why. But we only have one relationship per location. So, for example, city colleges, we have lots of, there's seven or eight city colleges. For some reason in Career Connect, if I pick city colleges, I can only pick like the Harold Washington location, no matter where they go. But so I don't know if that's something similar that you guys are saying. There's no
No,
way
we're
to
saying,
differentiate what in Career Connect, and I don't know why it's like that. It had something to do with the relationship numbers, but like even we have like 160 driving, there's like several locations throughout Cook County, but we can only pick the relationship number for one location. Like everything's entered in the system, but the location, the relationship number is only tied to the main location for some reason.
So it sounds like Career Connect is doing what Crystal and you guys are saying the new IWDS could do. Sounds like Career Connect already did that, as simplified
Yeah,
it.
kind of. And I think, but see, like, I like what you're saying is that if you have, like, if I add something for city colleges, like just say city colleges of Chicago, I could pick each campus according to each program, or maybe that will be something, maybe
Yep,
that's not a good
no,
example because there's too many, but however you guys want to set it up, is that what you're saying?
yep, that's
Yeah.
exactly. You could pick multiple locations for one relationship definition, and
Mhm.
and that way we wouldn't have a problem of A, believing that it is going across, but B, you don't have to do it twice. You don't have to do it 3 times or 4
Yeah,
times.
because we could, so you're saying we could enter one entity for city colleges and have all 7 locations with, would it be the same
Yes.
relationship
Right.
number?
Yeah, you could have, we're saying you could do that if you wanted to, if we add this feature. So like
Okay.
here, this is a good simple example. There's a main campus here, right? They
Mhm.
defined this relationship 24-101, okay?
Mhm.
They defined this, but it's only for this main campus here.
Mhm.
But if you wanted that same relationship to apply to the branch campus, which it's not, right? You could,
Right.
we're saying we could check both whatever locations you want that relationship to apply to, and it'll show up there too. And then when you're way over later on, when we're in services and you're picking providers and all that for specific services, then all those different locations that you checked will be available and relying on that relationship.
Okay, because see, I never had to set this up in IWDS, so I don't know all the nuances of that.
Yeah.
So I get, my last question is, so if I set up city colleges with one relationship number in several different locations, each location has a different program, like they all have a different, sector. So that I could do it that way, or would I have to do it separate because they have separate programs?
You could do it either way.
Okay.
Okay, so if you
I'm
want
with you with the duplication. So if we could do
yeah,
one and just say, well, this
you can just
campus
do
has
one.
this
Like if you want to have
program.
youth programs from one location, for example, you could just isolate that if you wanted to. If you want to, you
Okay.
could, by doing this, you could do the other. Today, you are isolated.
Okay, I guess I would like the option to be more flexible. So
Yep,
I'm with
it's
you guys.
right. It'll be either or. You don't have
Okay.
to do it. You can do it just like this flexibility is with, you could define, like Robert defines, I think those, he doesn't define them like this. He might split them up more, right? Like different relationships
Correct.
with different
Yeah,
fun. Like you may, for example, you may want trade in a different relationship, or you may want
yes,
youth separated from
the adult programs.
right? And you can all do that today, and you're going to be able to do that in the new IWS 2.0. But even if you said, I want youth and I want it to 3 of 5 locations with this idea, you could just check the 3 of the 5 you wanted on that youth definition. But if you wanted more than one, so we want more flexibility for you. Okay, that's
Yeah,
what we're saying.
so
That would be good.
They say when the day comes and we have to set this up, we might be calling you, Rory or Crystal, and saying, hey, did I do this right? Because I want to make sure
All
it's
right.
the
Oh,
same.
call Crystal, because I was the one that clearly didn't know that you could do it that way. So she's she'll be better help than I would.
Dan,
It
you got
looks
your
like
hand up?
Dan has a question too.
questions or comments, I guess. The first is, I think that the working group that, at least this is my recollection, that was around a zillion years ago, there was consensus that relationships were tied to only one location. And I think that's why, whether it works or doesn't work anymore, I think that's kind of why it is like it is now. But I do agree that, like Crystal said, like it would save a whole bunch of time if you have one relationship for multiple. And I think Al said something like, if you want to, or whatever. I think that's the key for everybody. The other thing is that for some reason, I think that that approved training programs are also related to locations. And does any of
Yes.
this mess with any of that business logic, if that makes sense?
Yes, that's a great question. I've been sitting here thinking about that.
Well, because when you go in and you want to put in your program, right? At the bottom of the program record, it allows you to choose multiple locations where that particular program might be offered.
Correct.
So you go down through there and you can check, oh, I want it here in Carthage and I want it in Galesburg and whatever. Let's say if it's, CNA or some such thing. And then by setting up your relationship number so that you're covered if somebody chooses to go to CNA as an adult versus going to Galesburg as a youth, I don't have to go in and create new relationships and add more stuff every single time, depending on what population I'm sending to which campus for what program, because on the program record, it has allowed me under that relationship number and approval for those different titles to be able to serve people at those separate locations.
Right, but those separate locations, unless a community college wouldn't be the example, but for purposes of PBVS, it's location and program. So those programs would have to be approved at that location. So it's not the entity at the main campus. Every single location and every single program has to be approved through IBHE.
Yeah, like your
Right.
proprietary healthcare training schools, for example,
Right.
they or computer training schools, like Microtrain or ComNet. I think, yeah, IBHE, PBVS, they call them extension campuses. They use the word campus, but yeah, they have to have each location approved.
Yep.
And then another reason why it's good to keep both, to keep that other option. I mean, I love this thing where we could lump them all into one, and that would save a lot of time. But there are some occasions too, even with the community colleges, where they might want to keep the option currently to go ahead and have separate relationship ID numbers. And that is like for our community college, they offer a truck driving program, but it's not at the main campus. So to check the boxes where the training's offered, like if we didn't have a separate relationship number, I would have to check the box for the main campus, but it's really not offered there. But we do that just so we don't have to create a separate relationship number. But there sometimes are cases where maybe it's the continuing education campus of a college and where their non-credit programs are or something like that. So
but that's going to be
that's why, if you were asking why would you have separate relationship numbers for each different locations, once in a while there is actually a reason to do that, but more often than not, like everyone's saying, it's nice that we could just select multiple locations.
right, but it's going to be important to be able to identify which programs are approved at which location, because that's going to be how it goes on the ETPL.
Yes, and we have that inside the training programs.
Right.
Lisa. Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, I don't know what you mean by,
Yeah.
I don't think we review training programs necessarily, or do we, independent on each location? If it's the same program?
Well, yeah, we should, because that's the requirement for PBVS. Each the program, it's the programs at the location. So you have to submit for PBVS, you have to submit the program information for each location. So if it's the same program, it gets approved for both locations.
That's what I was saying. So you're really only doing one review.
Yeah, but you have on that you have
But
ability.
well, that wasn't necessarily the case, Mark, because because it could be a different instructor, and IBHE could say, oh, that instructor doesn't have the right qualifications. So we can't just assume that.
Okay, I get what you're saying. I didn't know, and maybe I'm just thinking incorrectly because I'm not at the local level. Maybe they do. Dan has got his hand up. Maybe they do look at them that distinctly different when they approve, and they could approve one and not the other. I don't know, because right now it's handled at the local level.
Well, it's going to be important though for the case manager to know where the service is available, to know where to send someone. And I don't know if they get that from the system or from the ETPL, but you gotta have it somewhere to know where to send someone.
Well, I think we're talking about approval to get it on wherever you're going to look for it. Is it a different process, or is it going to be kind of combined into one review and approved for multiple?
Yeah.
Dan, you had your hand up first. Just you got something else?
It was just a comment about maybe why
identify what services
are the way they
they need
are
referrals for.
now, in that the reporting
Then you
wasn't
just
so
select a
robust. And
provider that you like to refer them to.
everybody hear that?
Well, we got some background. Is that you?
It's
No,
Natasha.
not me. I'm in the
I
office.
think I got it. I think Natasha was coming through somebody else, but I
Yeah.
muted him.
I think
Okay. All right. Go ahead. Go ahead, Dan.
quickly, I think the reason why there are so many different, some local areas do so many different relationships for this location and that title is because they couldn't get reports out, and they wanted an easy way to know how many people were enrolled at this location and Title 1A or whatever. And so as long as 2.0 can do that, then I would, like in our area, I just start pushing to do like Crystal does and have one relationship for the entity as a whole, and then knowing that I could get whatever I wanted out of it by selecting different parameters. And I think that will probably be what happens as people start using the system.
Well, that's going to be problematic for providers that are going to be on the ETPL, because it has to be, it's the location and the program.
Yeah, we're going to, from a performance standpoint, we're going to have that breakout.
Exactly. We're going to have that breakout, because you may have a location that goes gangbusters and the other not so much. And so we're not going to keep that one on the list.
I think we're okay. I think those are separate.
Shortcuts, Al.
I think funding though would be separate. I mean, this is the funding side, right? I think that like we do separate those programs. We have specifically what location for that training programs that it's approved for. So that's all good. We probably will need to think about performance though by location, right? I don't know that we do that today.
No,
We do.
Do we? Okay. But then being able to fund it, so to speak, that's separate.
Yeah, I mean, this could be a rollover into another conversation for another day.
Yeah,
But I think I get what Lisa's saying.
Chris,
I think what
go ahead.
Lisa's saying is that when you create a service record in IWDS, I mean, you're selecting. That's how I think, if I understand you correctly, Lisa, I think I know what you're saying now, is that you're when you're running, reports, how do you know which participants are at which and this applies mostly, I think, like you said, to non-community colleges and non-universities.
Right.
But like, how do you know those enrollees that had successful completions, employment at exit, so it's based on now that I think about it, when you create a service record, you're enrolling somebody under that relationship ID. And so that way you'll be able to differentiate if there's participants that have been enrolled in and exited from or completed successfully from one location versus another. So that's where I guess ties in, but that's probably a whole other topic.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Christy, real quick before we
this will be quick. I guess I'm trying to think through the city college example. So maybe maybe it is a good example to talk about, because so tell me if this makes sense. I don't know. So city colleges would be City College of Chicago, and then you could have a selection for each location saying like Olive Harvey, Malcolm X, because I see what you're saying, they all have separate programs. And when you enter the service, do I need to know that they're going to Olive Harvey for transportation, or do I need to know they're going to Malcolm X for healthcare? So if that's the case, I think it would have to be separate.
Yeah.
Is that what you guys are saying? I just want to make sure I understand.
Yes, that's what we're saying.
Okay.
Yeah, and that throws a little bit of a different, and maybe not, but different thought to me is who's the actual providers at city colleges, or is it each of those 5
We could
individual
probably put city
providers?
colleges at, they say, you know, they have their specific name at Olive Harvey or whatever.
Right.
Because
Right,
right
but
now,
what-
I don't think that's how it is in Career Connect, but you know, what we could, you know, obviously we'll have to fix it here, but just so we could capture all those programs
Mhm.
the correct way. Okay, I got
Maybe
it.
they
Thank
were in there
you.
Very
twice.
good. No, this is really good conversation. I really appreciate it. Thank you for all your input.
And now keep in mind, you guys, I know y'all talking bad about IWDS. You see how excited you guys are for this new system? Back then, that's how they was with it. Because if you would have saw what was before IWDS, oh man, the IWDS back then was like, oh man, the dream come true. So, and you guys know
that had to be way before my time.
And yes,
That's how it goes. It's
yep.
yeah,
And
shiny new
also,
car, right?
Yeah, and they say, oh, we could do this. We could, and we could add these programs, and we could do this. We could fix it. And then when they start seeing the cost of adding these nuances to IWDS, they say, oh, we can't afford it. Hopefully, on this new system, doing update, modifying this new 2.0 will be easier and cost less to
That's what
fix
we're-
it. Say, because this is going to be a process now where new stuff going to happen, and we're going to say, hey, Al, can we have not, instead of doing it this way, can you change the system to work it like this? Hopefully, you will have an answer. Say, yeah, we could do that, and put in that batch report and send
Yeah.
it through.
Well,
But
and the other thing is, don't forget too, that in the beginning, IWDS, the provider side of IWDS is a behemoth.
yes,
And at the beginning, it was pulling information from providers into performance stuff. It was tracking who was dumping into what measures back in the WIA days. And then they
absolutely.
disabled that part of the system because it, the amount of changes that were happening, it wasn't able to keep up with it. So then it just kind of became defunct. But all that functionality was there at one time. It
Absolutely.
just got so huge. So,
And that's why I'm hoping that this new system can handle it.
Yeah.
We're looking all good now. Oh, we're going to do this. They promise you the world and the moon and Mars is possible, but when time come, hopefully it can deliver.
I am too. We'll have to keep having conversations like this to get it right.
I love the conversation. I really love hearing what everybody is talking about and saying. I'm over here just smiling away like if they only knew.
All right. I'm way over, so I think so. Thank you
No,
so
you're
much.
not. We enjoy. Don't even say that. We enjoy it. These are the kind of meetings we have to help better what we want to do with the new system for all. So
Great.
no, you're not over. We appreciate
right.
you taking the time for us.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Everybody have a good day.
Okay, you too.
Bye-bye.